My grandpa spent nearly $60,000 to take the whole family on a dream vacation, but at the airport my mother told me they had accidentally forgotten to buy my ticket and ordered me to go home. After overhearing a shocking conversation and getting slapped for confronting her, they abandoned me. I managed to catch the last flight, and when we finally checked in at the destination, what happened next left everyone stunned. The sound of rolling suitcases echoed through the terminal as I clutched my boarding documents, heart racing with anticipation. Grandpa had spared no expense, nearly $60,000, for what he called the trip of a lifetime. He wanted all of us together, every child and grandchild, to share memories that would last forever. I had spent weeks carefully packing, folding clothes with precision, even buying a new journal to record every detail of the journey. I imagined laughter at the beach, late-night talks in the hotel, and maybe even a chance to mend the cracks in our family. For once I thought we'd be united. Grandpa's generosity felt like a bridge strong enough to carry us over years of tension. As I stood in line with my suitcase, I smiled at the thought of him waiting at the destination, proud to see us all arrive together. But beneath the excitement I noticed something odd. My mother avoided my gaze, speaking in hushed tones to my aunt. Their laughter wasn't warm, it was sharp, almost mocking. I brushed it off, convincing myself I was overthinking. After all, this was Grandpa's dream. Surely no one would ruin it. When the attendant asked for my ticket, I handed over my passport with confidence. My mother stepped forward, her voice flat. "We accidentally forgot to buy yours," she said as if announcing the weather. The words froze me. Around us, travelers bustled, families hugged, children tugged at parents' hands. Yet in that moment the world narrowed to her expression, calm, almost satisfied. I searched her face for a hint of apology, but there was none. I turned to the others. My cousins looked away, pretending to check their phones. My aunt adjusted her scarf, avoiding eye contact. Even my younger brother, usually quick to defend me, stared at the floor. The silence was louder than any insult. "Forgot," I whispered, my voice trembling. "How do you forget one person when Grandpa paid for everyone?" No one answered. My mother simply shrugged as if my presence or absence was irrelevant. The humiliation burned. I felt invisible, erased from the family portrait before the trip had even begun. I stepped aside, trying to steady my breathing. My hands shook as I clutched my suitcase handle. That's when I heard it. My mother's voice, low but sharp, speaking to my aunt near the vending machines. "She'll ruin the trip," she muttered. "It's better if she stays behind. Grandpa won't know until later." My aunt chuckled softly. "He'll be too busy enjoying himself. By the time he finds out, it'll be too late." The words sliced through me. It wasn't an accident. It was deliberate. They had planned to leave me behind, to erase me from Grandpa's dream. My chest tightened, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. Memories flashed. Times I had been excluded from family dinners, ignored during celebrations, treated like an outsider in my own home. This wasn't new, but it was the cruelest cut yet. I pressed my back against the wall, fighting tears. The betrayal wasn't just about a ticket. It was about being unwanted, dismissed, and cast aside by the very people who should have stood beside me. Fueled by anger, I marched toward my mother. "I heard you," I said, my voice louder than I intended. "You planned this. You wanted me left behind." Her eyes narrowed. "Lower your voice," she hissed. "No," I snapped. "You lied. You humiliated me. Grandpa wanted us all together and you—" Before I could finish, her hand struck my cheek. The sound echoed in the terminal. Heads turned. A child gasped. My skin burned, but the sting wasn't just physical. It was the public declaration that I was nothing to her. I stood frozen as she adjusted her bag, turned her back and walked toward the gate. One by one the family followed. No one spoke. No one defended me. They simply left, their footsteps fading into the distance. I was stranded, abandoned in a crowded airport, surrounded by strangers yet utterly alone. My suitcase felt heavier, my heart heavier still. For a moment I considered giving up, returning home, pretending none of this had happened. But then I thought of Grandpa, his smile, his hope, his dream of unity. I couldn't let them erase me. Not this time. Determined, I rushed to the counter. "Please," I begged the attendant, "is there any way I can get on that flight?" She typed quickly, her eyes scanning the screen. There's one seat left, she said. But you'll need to pay immediately. I fumbled with my wallet, hands trembling, pulling out every card I had. The cost was steep, but I didn't hesitate. This was my chance, not just to join the trip, but to prove I wouldn't be silenced. The attendant handed me the ticket. Relief washed over me, but it was fleeting. I still had to make it through security, through the gate, through the judgmental stares of my family when they saw me board. I sprinted through the terminal, weaving between travelers, my suitcase rattling behind me. My heart pounded as the final boarding call echoed overhead. I reached the gate breathless, ticket in hand, and the attendant scanned it with a nod. As I stepped onto the plane, I caught sight of my mother's face. Shock flickered in her eyes, quickly replaced by irritation. She turned away, refusing to acknowledge me. I slid into my seat, chest heaving, adrenaline surging. I had made it. Against their wishes, against their cruelty, I was here. The hum of the engines grew louder, and as the plane lifted off, I stared out the window, vowing silently, they would not break me. The plane touched down with a heavy thud, and the cabin filled with the sound of seatbelts clicking open. My body felt drained, but my mind was sharp, bracing for what awaited me. As we shuffled through the terminal, my family moved in a tight cluster, their laughter echoing against the high ceilings. I trailed behind, suitcase wheels squeaking, deliberately keeping my distance. At the hotel, the grand lobby shimmered with polished marble floors and chandeliers that sparkled like frozen stars. The air smelled faintly of jasmine, yet the beauty of the place only heightened the sting of what followed. At the check-in desk, the receptionist greeted us warmly, asking for names. My mother stepped forward, rattling off the list of family members. When she reached my name, her voice faltered. She glanced at me, then lowered her tone as if I were an afterthought. The receptionist looked confused. "Is she not with your group?" she asked politely. My mother forced a smile. "She's separate." The words hung in the air, sharp and deliberate. My cousins exchanged glances, some smirking, others pretending to be busy with their phones. I stood silently, my cheeks burning, as the receptionist handed me a single key card, detached from the neat stack given to the rest of them. The silence was heavy. No one offered to help with my luggage. No one asked if I needed directions to my room. I walked alone across the gleaming lobby, the sound of my suitcase wheels echoing like a reminder of my isolation. The first day unfolded like a series of quiet betrayals. At breakfast, the family gathered around a long table near the window, sunlight spilling across their plates. I approached with a hopeful smile, but my mother's hand slid across the empty chair beside her. "This seat is taken," she said, though no one sat there. I ended up at a corner table, alone, stirring my coffee while listening to their laughter drift across the room. My cousins posed for photos, leaning close, flashing peace signs. When I walked past, one of them whispered, "Don't ruin the shot," and tilted the camera away. Later, at the pool, I dipped my feet into the water, hoping to join them. But as I approached, my aunt waved her hand dismissively. "We're full here," she said, though the chairs beside them were empty. I sat alone under a palm tree, watching them splash and cheer, pretending I wasn't there. At dinner, the cruelty sharpened. The waiter asked if I was joining the group reservation. My mother shook her head. "She'll eat separately." The words were casual, but the sting was deep. I ate alone at a small table near the kitchen, listening to the clatter of dishes while the family toasted to togetherness. Every small act was deliberate, each exclusion a reminder that I was unwanted. Yet instead of breaking me, it carved something stronger inside, a quiet resolve. On the second morning, as I lingered in the lobby, a hotel staff member approached. His name tag read, Daniel. He smiled warmly, noticing my hesitation. "You're not with them, are you?" he asked gently. I hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. "Not really," I admitted. He nodded as if he understood more than I said. "Sometimes families forget kindness," he murmured. "But you're here. That matters." His words were simple, but they carried weight. He offered directions to hidden spots in the hotel. The quiet garden behind the pool, the rooftop lounge with a view of the ocean. "Go there when you need peace," he said. Later that day, as I sat alone in the garden, another staff member, a young woman named Sophia, brought me a cup of tea. "On the house," she said with a smile. "You looked like you needed it." These small gestures, smiles, kind words, a cup of tea were lifelines. They reminded me that not everyone saw me as invisible. Their kindness gave me strength to endure the hostility, to hold my head high even when my family tried to erase me. Instead of collapsing under the weight of exclusion, I began to observe. I watched my relatives closely, noticing patterns. My cousins complained constantly about the food, the rooms, the schedule. My aunt argued with the staff over trivial matters, demanding upgrades. My mother whispered about expenses, calculating every detail of Grandpa's generosity as if it were hers to control. Their greed was obvious. They weren't here for family bonding. They were here for luxury, for the chance to bask in Grandpa's wealth. Every complaint, every demand revealed their dependence on his money. I realized something important. Their cruelty toward me wasn't just personal. It was rooted in fear. They feared losing their place in Grandpa's favor, feared that I might stand in the way of their comfort. That fear fueled their hostility. Instead of letting it crush me, I let it sharpen me. I carried myself with quiet dignity, refusing to react to their taunts. When they mocked me behind my back, I smiled calmly. When they excluded me, I found strength in solitude. Inside, I built a quiet resolve. I would not let them define me. I would not let their greed erase my worth. One evening as I passed by the lounge, I heard voices, my mother and aunt speaking in hushed tones. I paused, hidden behind a column, straining to catch their words. "Grandpa has something planned," my mother whispered. "He said there will be an announcement before the trip ends." My aunt's voice was sharp. "Do you think it's about the inheritance?" "Maybe," my mother replied. "But whatever it is, we need to make sure she doesn't benefit." The words sent a chill through me. Grandpa had a plan, something bigger than this vacation. And they were already scheming to keep me out of it. I stepped back quietly, heart pounding. For the first time I felt a flicker of hope. Their fear confirmed that I mattered more than they admitted. Something was coming and they knew it. I decided then to stay calm, to wait. I wouldn't confront them yet. I wouldn't reveal what I had overheard. Instead, I would watch, listen, and prepare. The silence of the hotel corridors felt heavy, but inside me, a spark had ignited. I knew the cruelty wasn't the end, it was only the beginning of something larger. The evening air was heavy with anticipation. The family gathered in the grand dining hall of the resort, chandeliers glowing softly above us, casting golden light across polished tables. My cousins whispered among themselves, my mother sat stiffly at the head, and I quietly took a seat at the far end, unnoticed as usual. Then Grandpa entered. His presence filled the room instantly. Though age had slowed his steps, his voice carried strength. He smiled warmly, greeting each person, but when his eyes met mine, there was something different. Something knowing. He raised his glass. "Thank you all for coming," he began. "This trip was meant to bring us together, to remind us of what family should mean." His gaze swept across the room, pausing deliberately on me. "But I've learned more than I expected." The room fell silent. My mother shifted uncomfortably, her fingers tightening around her napkin. Grandpa's tone grew sharper. "I know what happened at the airport. I know who was left behind, and I know why." Gasps rippled through the room. My cousins exchanged nervous glances. My mother's face drained of color. For the first time, their cruelty was exposed under the weight of his words. Grandpa set his glass down, his voice steady. "This trip was never about luxury. It was a test of character. I wanted to see who carried kindness, who valued family, and who showed resilience when faced with hardship." He turned toward me, his eyes soft yet firm. "You, my child, showed strength. You endured humiliation, exclusion, and cruelty, yet you still came. You refused to let them erase you. That is the spirit I value most." The room froze. My cousins stared, mouths slightly open. My aunt's fork clattered against her plate. My mother's lips parted, but no words came. Grandpa continued, his voice unwavering. "Everything I have, my trust, my inheritance, my legacy, belongs to you. You are the one who proved worthy." The silence was deafening. The chandeliers seemed to flicker, the air thick with disbelief. I sat motionless, heart pounding, struggling to process the enormity of his words. For years I had been treated as invisible, unwanted. Now in one moment Grandpa had lifted me above them all. The reaction was immediate. My mother shot to her feet, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "This is absurd," she cried. "She doesn't deserve it." She's ungrateful, difficult, always causing trouble. My aunt chimed in, her voice trembling with anger. We've been here for him all these years. We've cared for him, supported him. And now he gives everything to her. My cousins erupted in protest, voices overlapping, accusations flying. She's selfish, one shouted. She doesn't even belong here, another sneered. But their faces betrayed them. Behind the outrage was fear. Fear of losing the comfort they had always taken for granted. Their greed was laid bare, exposed in front of everyone. Grandpa raised his hand, silencing the chaos. Enough, he said firmly. I have seen your true colors. Your anger only proves my decision is right. The room fell quiet again, though the tension was palpable. My mother's eyes burned with fury, her hands trembling. My cousins avoided my gaze, their expressions twisted with resentment. I could have smiled, could have gloated, could have thrown their cruelty back at them. But instead I sat calmly, my voice steady when I finally spoke. I don't need your approval, I said softly. Your betrayal shaped me. Your exclusion taught me strength. Every cruel word, every cold stare, every attempt to erase me, it made me resilient. My mother scoffed, but I continued, my tone unwavering. You tried to break me, but instead you built me. I no longer fear you. I no longer need your acceptance. Grandpa saw what you refused to see, that I am more than your cruelty. The words hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. For once they had no response. My calmness unsettled them more than anger ever could. Grandpa smiled faintly, pride shining in his eyes. That is why I chose you, he said. Because you understand that strength is not in wealth or power but in resilience. As the evening drew to a close, I sat quietly, reflecting on the journey that had brought me here. The betrayal at the airport, the silent cruelty at the hotel, the whispered schemes. All of it had led to this moment. Cruelty may wound, but resilience wins. My family's attempts to erase me had only revealed their own weakness. My endurance had revealed my strength. Grandpa's faith in me was more than an inheritance. It was validation, proof that love and justice can prevail even when family turns against you. I looked around the room one last time. My mother's face was tight with anger, my cousins sulking in silence, my aunt glaring with resentment. Yet none of it mattered anymore. Their cruelty no longer defined me. I rose from my seat, my voice calm but firm. Thank you, Grandpa, I said. Not for the inheritance but for believing in me when no one else did. The chandeliers glowed brighter, the air lighter, as if the weight of years had lifted. I walked out of the hall with quiet dignity, leaving behind the bitterness, carrying only the lesson that had been carved into me. Resilience is the greatest inheritance of all.